Fritz Klingenberg was born on December 17, 1912, in Metz, a city that was part of Germany at the time. He grew up during the years following the First World War, a period of instability and resentment in Germany. Like many young men of his generation, he was influenced by the growing nationalism that spread across the country. He joined the Nazi movement early in his life, becoming a member of the SS, the elite paramilitary organization that pledged loyalty directly to Adolf Hitler. Klingenberg was a man who seemed to thrive in the structure and discipline of the SS. He was not known for being a political ideologue, but rather as a daring and ambitious soldier who sought recognition through bold actions. When the Second World War began in 1939, he was already part of the SS division known as the Das Reich, one of the most famous and feared divisions in the Waffen-SS. This unit saw heavy fighting across Europe and became known for both its battlefield effectiveness and the brutality of its campaigns. In 1940, Germany launched its Blitzkrieg in Western Europe, sweeping through the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. Klingenberg served in this campaign, showing himself to be an energetic and resourceful officer. His courage and willingness to take risks impressed his superiors, and he quickly earned promotions. But his most famous moment came a year later, during the invasion of Yugoslavia in 1941, when he led a small group of men in one of the most unexpected captures of a capital city in the war. In April 1941, the German army moved into Yugoslavia after a coup there angered Hitler. The invasion was swift and devastating, and Klingenberg's division was ordered to advance toward the capital, Belgrade. The roads were flooded, and progress was slow. Klingenberg, frustrated by the delays, decided to take matters into his own hands. With only a few vehicles and a handful of men, he crossed the flooded Sava River using a damaged bridge and made his way into the outskirts of Belgrade, well ahead of the main German force. Once inside the city, Klingenberg and his small team encountered little organized resistance. The Yugoslav forces were demoralized and scattered, and the city itself was in chaos. Realizing that he had a rare opportunity, Klingenberg decided to bluff his way into securing the city before the main army even arrived. He captured a group of Yugoslav soldiers and used them to deliver messages to the city's authorities. He told them that a large German force was about to enter Belgrade and that resisting would only lead to destruction. To make his claim more believable, he raised the German flag over the German embassy, which had been abandoned earlier, and fired flares to signal an imaginary army's approach. The deception worked. Believing that thousands of German troops were surrounding the city, the mayor of Belgrade and the city's defenders surrendered to Klingenberg. When the main German forces arrived the next day, they found that the capital of Yugoslavia had already fallen, not through a massive battle, but through the audacity and quick thinking of one SS officer and his small patrol. Klingenberg's daring act made him famous overnight in Germany. He was personally awarded the Knight's Cross of the Iron Cross, one of the highest military honors for capturing an entire capital city with only a few men. Nazi propaganda quickly turned him into a symbol of German courage and superiority. Newspapers and radio broadcasts celebrated him as the man who took Belgrade almost single-handedly. For the SS, it was the perfect story to promote, a brave, resourceful soldier achieving victory through discipline and intelligence. Behind the myth, though, Klingenberg was a product of the ruthless system he served. His courage was real, but it was tied to a regime built on violence, occupation, and terror. As the war continued, he remained an officer in the SS, fighting on several fronts. The next years of his life would take him deep into the Eastern Front, where the war became far more brutal, and the lines between soldier and executioner often blurred. The Eastern Front was unlike anything Klingenberg had experienced in Western Europe or the Balkans. It was a vast, bloody conflict fought in freezing temperatures and endless plains, with millions of soldiers and civilians caught in the destruction. The Waffen-SS divisions, including those Klingenberg served with, were at the heart of some of the most intense battles as well as atrocities committed against civilians and prisoners of war. Despite the horrors of the campaign, Klingenberg continued to fight with determination. He was promoted and given command responsibilities, leading units in combat against the advancing Soviet forces. By this time, however, the momentum of the war had shifted. After 1943, Germany was on the defensive, losing territory on all fronts. Klingenberg's reputation as a daring and effective officer kept him in high regard among his peers, but the chances of another dramatic victory like Belgrade were gone. In 1945, As the war drew to its catastrophic end, Klingenberg found himself fighting in Hungary. The German army was collapsing under the weight of Allied advances from both east and west. Budapest was one of the final major battles, a city surrounded and besieged by Soviet forces. Klingenberg and his men fought fiercely, trying to hold the line in a war that was clearly lost. On March 22, 1945, Klingenberg was killed in action near Budapest. He was only 32 years old. His death came just weeks before Germany surrendered, marking the end of a regime that had brought Europe to ruin. To his comrades, he died a soldier's death, fighting to the last. To history, he was a symbol of how ambition, discipline, and courage can be twisted when placed in the service of a destructive ideology. After the war, Klingenberg's story faded from the spotlight. For a time, his capture of Belgrade was still mentioned in military histories as an example of initiative and psychological warfare, but the association with the SS and the crimes of the Nazi regime made it impossible to celebrate his actions without context. In later decades, historians examined the story more critically, seeing it as both a remarkable feat of daring and a reflection of the dangerous myth-making that surrounded the Waffen-SS. The story of Fritz Klingenberg is both fascinating and tragic. It shows how individuals can become entangled in the machinery of war and ideology. His courage was genuine, but it was used to advance a cause built on oppression and conquest. The image of him standing in Belgrade, raising the German flag over the city, captures both the height of his success and the depth of the world he represented, one where victory was measured not by justice or peace, but by domination and fear. Klingenberg was a man who lived for adventure and recognition. In another time, he might have been a daring explorer or a risk-taking officer in a less destructive army, but in the world of Nazi Germany, his qualities were channeled toward aggression and expansion. The same traits that made him a skilled and confident leader also tied him to one of history's darkest periods. His story reminds us that bravery alone does not make a person heroic. What matters is the cause to which that bravery is devoted. Even today, his name appears in military accounts of World War II as the man who captured Belgrade through bluff and initiative. But, in the broader understanding of history, he remains part of a regime that brought immense suffering. The SS, to which he belonged, was responsible for some of the worst crimes of the 20th century. Klingenberg's personal achievements cannot be separated from that larger reality. In the end, Fritz Klingenberg's life was short, bold, and deeply shaped by the times in which he lived. He came of age in a nation that glorified war and obedience, found purpose in a military machine that rewarded daring and loyalty, and died serving a cause that led millions to death and devastation. His story is a reminder that even acts of courage, when bound to injustice, leave behind a legacy that history views with sorrow rather than admiration. Thanks for watching. If you have a thought on Fritz Klingenberg, drop it in a comment below. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe.